Chapter 8. Multiply Milestones. 1. In 1996, when Josh Clark was 25, he had a bad breakup with his girlfriend, and it left him in a slump. So he started jogging. Clark hated jogging. He'd always hated jogging. But he thought this time might be different. It wasn't. It was just as boring and painful as it had always been. But this time he stuck with it, and eventually he had come out the other side, he said. The runs had started to feel different, meditative and relaxing. He could barely believe it. He never thought he was the kind of person who could enjoy running. He felt the zeal of the converted, he said, and he resolved to help other people discover the pleasures of jogging. Was there a way for someone to get to the other side without requiring the period of suffering he had endured? He wondered, how do I give people easy victories? Clark started scribbling out a plan to ease people into running. People needed a goal, he thought. Something to look forward to. His hunch was that running in a 5K race would make a good goal. The races are public, social, competitive, and fun. They are peaks. And, critically, the 5K represented an attainable challenge, since most people in decent health could already walk a 5K. So, he called his plan Couch to 5K. In 9 weeks, with 3 workouts per week, the plan would transform a couch sitter into a 5K finisher. The first workout was simple, alternating a 60-second jog with a 90-second walk for a total of 20 minutes. The workouts escalated steadily from there. Clark needed a beta tester for his plan, so he called his mom. She was not receptive. He was trying to convince me that I should get into this running thing, too. Yeah, right, she said. But her maternal instincts kicked in, and she gave it a shot. It worked. She found it kind of surprising that I could do it without a tremendous amount of effort or commitment. Encouraged, Clark posted his plan to a website that he'd built for runners. It was 1997, the early days of the web. What surprised me was that people started picking it up and talking about it. I'm on week 3, day 2, and here's how it's going, Clark said. Over the years, as interest in Couch to 5K grew, parts of the plan took on almost mythic qualities. For instance, in week 5 comes a moment that has spawned its own acronym, W5D3, for week 5, day 3. This day requires the new joggers to step up their efforts considerably. While the previous workout featured 2 8-minute runs, separated by a walk, W5D3 requires a continuous 20-minute jog, by far the longest stretch the participants have run to that point. It is feared and loathed by new joggers. In a blog post called The Dreaded W5D3, one jogger wrote, I can think of at least 10 times where the old me would have stopped to walk. Instead, I shuffled along, sometimes very slowly, until I regained my breath and was able to pick the pace back up. I did it. Yeah. In 2000, Clark's website had picked up some advertisers, and he decided to sell it to a company called Cool Runnings. He went on with his life as an expert in software interface design, and meanwhile, over the years, his brainchild has grown exponentially. Millions of people have heard of it, now known as C25K, and hundreds of thousands have participated. Clark has received countless emotional thank yous from people saying Couch to 5K changed their lives. He had meant to introduce people to the joys of running, but in the process, he had unwittingly delivered defining moments. Billions of dollars have been spent trying to encourage people to exercise. Most of it has been wasted. Yet here is a program that has convinced thousands of people to train for a 3.1-mile jog. What gives? The common goal to get in shape is ambiguous and unmotivating. Pursuing it puts you on a path with no clear destination and no intermediate moments to celebrate. Couch to 5K provides a structure that respects the power of moments. First, there's the commitment to join the program. That's one milestone. It's a personal resolution made public. Surviving the formidable W5D3 moment provides a second milestone. The quote above says it all. I did it.
What?
That's what pride sounds like. And of course, finishing the 5K is a peak with elements of elevation and connection and pride. 3 months ago, I couldn't run 100 yards without heaving, and now I'm the kind of person who can finish a race. The C25K program multiplies the milestones that participants meet, and in so doing, it multiplies the pride that they experience. We can apply this same strategy to many aspects of our lives and work. To experience more defining moments, we need to rethink the way we set goals. 2. Steve Kamb was a lifelong video game aficionado, an addict even. He worried about how much of his life he was losing to the escapist pleasures of gaming. Then it occurred to him that he might be able to hijack his own addiction. If he could understand why he found games so compelling, he could use those same principles to rebuild his life around adventure rather than escape. In his book, Level Up Your Life, How to Unlock Adventure and Happiness by Becoming the Hero of Your Own Story, he described the structure of pleasurable games. They follow a system of levels. When you are level 1 and killing spiders, you know that when you kill enough spiders, you get to level up eventually and get to start attacking rats. Once you advance to a high enough level, you know you get to start slaying freaking dragons, which can only be written in all caps. Conquering each level feels good. It feels so good, in fact, that you can love playing a game even if you never finish it. Think of it. Very few people finish Angry Birds or Candy Crush or, for that matter, Donkey Kong, but still they have a great time playing. Kamb's insight was that in our lives, we tend to declare goals without intervening levels. We declare that we're going to learn to play the guitar. We take a lesson or two, buy a cheap guitar, futz around with simple chords for a few weeks. Then life gets busy, and 7 years later, we find the guitar in the attic and think, I should take up the guitar again. There are no levels. Kamb had always loved Irish music and had fantasized about learning to play the fiddle. So he co-opted gaming strategy and figured out a way to level up toward his goal. Level 1. Commit to 1 violin lesson per week and practice 15 minutes per day for 6 months. Level 2. Relearn how to read sheet music and complete Celtic fiddle tunes by Craig Duncan. Level 3. Learn to play Concerning Hobbits from the Fellowship of the Ring on the violin. Level 4. Sit and play the fiddle for 30 minutes with other musicians. Level 5. Learn to play Promontory from the Last of the Mohicans on the violin. Boss Battle. Sit and play the fiddle for 30 minutes in a pub in Ireland. Isn't that ingenious? He's taken an ambiguous goal learning to play the fiddle and defined an appealing destination, playing in an Irish pub. Better yet, he invented 5 milestones en route to the destination, each worthy of celebration. Note that, as with a game, if he stopped the quest after level 3, he'd still have several moments of pride to remember. It would have been a fun ride, like quitting after 30 levels of Candy Crush. Could you adapt the strategy for one of your goals? Many Americans aspire to learn another language, for example. But learning Spanish is one of those amorphous goals that should give us pause. There's no destination and no intermediate levels. Using Kamb's principles, we can make this a more exciting journey. We can level up. Level 1. Order a meal in Spanish. Level 2. Have a simple conversation in Spanish with a taxi driver. Level 3. Glance at a Spanish newspaper and understand at least 1 headline. Level 4. Follow the action in a Spanish cartoon. Level 5. Read a kindergarten-level book in Spanish. And so on, leading up to destination. Be able to have full, normal conversations in Spanish with Fernando in accounting, not just como está usted? Compare that plan with the typical way we think about pursuing goals. Level 1. Try to squeeze in a Spanish study session. Level 2. Try to squeeze in a Spanish study session. Level 3. Try to squeeze in a Spanish study session. Level 4. Try to squeeze in a Spanish study session. Level 5. Try to squeeze in a Spanish study session. Destination. Someday, eventually. No Spanish. Which of those plans sound like more fun? Which are you more likely to return to if you're forced to take a break? Which are you more likely to complete? 3. By using CAM's level up strategy, we multiply the number of motivating milestones we encounter en route to a goal. That's a forward-looking strategy. We're anticipating moments of pride ahead. But the opposite is also possible, to surface those milestones you've already met but might not have noticed. Earlier in the book, we mentioned the way Fitbit celebrates its customers for fitness milestones. The India badge, for instance, celebrates you for walking a total of 1,997 miles, which is the length of India. Celebrating 2,000 miles walked would have been fitting, too, but somehow the India badge feels more interesting and memorable. No Fitbit customers would have been aware of this feat had the company not told them. But this instinct to notice and commemorate achievements is oddly lacking in many areas of life. Take youth sports leagues. There are natural moments of pride scattered throughout the season, points scored, victories won. But what about the kids' greater skill at basketball? Certainly the kids know, in a generic sense, that they've improved over the course of a season. But improvements are slow and incremental, almost invisible. You can't rewind your memory to 6 months prior and observe how clearly your dribbling has improved. But you can rewind a video. What if every boy on a basketball team received a simple before and after video comparing his performance at the beginning and end of the season? The improvements would be so obvious, so visible. Check it out, I could barely dribble with my left hand. Haha, I couldn't make a free throw to save my life. What a stunning moment of pride that would be. Look how far I've come. And yet we have not encountered a single coach who has had the instinct to mint this moment of pride for his players. Or think about how couples celebrate their anniversaries. By taking trips, going out for a nice dinner, or exchanging gifts. Those are moments rich with elevation and connection. But what about pride? Shouldn't couples acknowledge and celebrate what they've accomplished together? One couple we know kept an anniversary journal for the first decade of their marriage. Every year they would record the things they accomplished, redecorating the back bedroom, hosting extended family for Thanksgiving dinner, and so on. They'd also record the trips they took and the friends they saw most frequently and, amazingly, what they fought about. The husband said, "Reliving the big arguments from the previous year is not for the faint of heart because you tend to want to refight them. But having the record was useful because it provided concrete evidence of the progress they had made in their relationship. In the first year of marriage, they fought about almost anything. One actual example, which spices can stay on the kitchen table. Over the next 3 years, the arguments steadily dwindled, and by the 5th year, they could recall only minor bickering, not even an honest-to-goodness fight. And they laughed at the memory of fighting over spices. That's a laugh that signals a moment of pride. Look at how far we've come. And that moment would not have happened, we suspect, were it not for the journal. 4. What's clear from the preceding is that we are consistently missing opportunities to create moments of pride for ourselves and others. The interesting question is, why? Our theory: we've been brainwashed by the goals we see in our work lives. Executives tend to set goals that sound like this: grow revenues to $20 billion by 2020. That's a real example, by the way. Based on our experience with C-suite executives, we think it's likely that millions of people around the world are working at this very moment toward goals that were chosen simply because the numbers had a catchy ring. Similar goals cascade downward. Within the organization with a $20 billion by 2020 goal, A particular business unit might have a smaller supporting goal. Increase market share in South America to 23% by 2018. Then, after setting a goal like that, the group would make a bunch of plans to achieve it. A numerical goal plus supporting plans. Notice what that combination leaves us with: a destination that is not inherently motivating and that lacks meaningful milestones along the way. As a result, achieving the 20 by 2020 goal will require a massive human effort with much of the pride stripped out. To be fair, this combination of goal setting and planning can move an organization in the right direction. But the value of these tools comes from holding people accountable for their work. They're not designed to be intrinsically motivating or to improve the experience of the human beings who are being held accountable. We should be careful that we don't let this corporate style of goal setting infiltrate our personal lives, where we're in full control. I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 2 months, for instance, is a classic corporate goal. Arbitrary, numerical, and lacking intermediate milestones. By now, you know what to do. Restore the milestones. Level up. Go 1 week straight without using the elevator. Pick out 2 microbrews to enjoy on Saturday after a full week without booze. If I jog continuously for 3 songs on my playlist, that entitles me to download 3 new ones. And so on. Furthermore, the ultimate destination should not be losing 10 pounds. It should be something intrinsically motivating, such as fitting into my sexy black pants without gastrointestinal distress. Suddenly, your weight loss mission starts looking more like a playful quest, with frequent victories along the way, and less like a daily weigh-in on the bathroom scale. Is there a way to channel this same spirit inside organizations to counteract the command and control culture of goals and plans? A wise leader can look for milestones en route to a larger goal. Let's say your group has been tasked with boosting customer satisfaction by 20% by the end of the 3rd quarter. You might have no control over that goal and how it's framed, but you can still multiply the milestones for your team. Note that these need not be sequential. Milestone 1. Receive a glowing thank you from a well-satisfied customer. Milestone 2. Make it a full week without any surveys scoring their satisfaction as a 1 out of 7. Milestone 3. Solve the number 1 complaint from the last month of surveys. Milestone 4. Get halfway there. Boost satisfaction by 10%. And so on. To identify milestones like these, ask yourself, what's inherently motivating? Getting a glowing thank you. What would be worth celebrating that might only take a few weeks or months of work? Solving the number 1 complaint. What's a hidden accomplishment that is worth surfacing and celebrating? Making it a full week without anyone's. The same logic applies to milestones involving less tangible goals, such as building leadership skills. In most organizations, the only clear levels en route to leadership positions are promotions. But what if it takes 5 years for an employee to earn a promotion, or what if she is not interested in or suited for a promotion? How do you create the intermediate milestones that could provide moments of pride? Large organizations often speak in terms of competencies. That is, to do a particular job well, you need to develop a set of specific competencies in areas such as vision setting or business acumen or data analysis. Yes, they tend to sound exactly that boring. But rather than giving vague instructions to employees on how to build their business acumen, they could be presented instead with a set of meaningful milestones to accomplish. Again, not necessarily sequential. Turn around a product/service line that is struggling, have a direct report promoted to a managerial role, solve a business challenge by collaborating with another function or group. Receive a compliment that you run meetings that are actually worthwhile. Deliver a major project on time and on budget. Contribute an idea that is adopted company-wide. These items would not be a checklist for advancement. Do these 6 things and you'll be promoted, since it would be impossible to create a generic list that would apply to all people and situations. Rather, The milestones would simply map out the turf of achievement. Here are the ways it's possible to build your skills and demonstrate your value to the organization, and when you do so, we will salute you for that. 5. Hitting a milestone sparks pride. It should also spark a celebration, a moment of elevation. Don't forget that milestones, along with pits and transitions, are 3 natural defining moments that deserve extra attention. Milestones deserve peaks. The Boy Scouts understand this idea well. The Scouts Merit Badge Program, active for more than 100 years, is a great example of introducing multiple milestones and celebrating each one. The merit badges are presented to the Scout at a court of honor, where the Scouts are recognized in front of their peers. That's a peak. Similarly, karate students who earn belts from the novice's white belt to the expert's black belt often receive them at public award ceremonies. People who develop lifelong passions are often honoring these same concepts, whether consciously or not. In 2013, Scott Ettl, an executive at a research firm and the father of 3 young kids, read a book about Aaron Burr that a friend had recommended. Burr, the 3rd Vice President of the United States and the man who famously killed Alexander Hamilton in a duel, was portrayed as an American hero. Then, a few weeks later, Ettl devoured David McCullough's best-selling biography of John Adams, which cast Burr in a negative light. He read a biography of George Washington and, sure enough, it portrayed John Adams differently than had McCullough's biography. But by the time he had read about the same people and events for the 3rd time, since Washington, Adams, and Burr all overlapped, his perception of history, as he had learned it in school, began to change. The portraits of the historical figures stopped feeling flat and contradictory. Rather, they began to acquire 3 dimensions. He was hooked. He'd always been a history buff, but the biographies were bringing a kind of order to his passion. One day, he made a declaration to his family. He was going to read a biography of every American president in order. It became more than liking history, he said. It became a quest with 45 ready-made milestones. He blazed through the first 8 or 9 presidential biographies in the first year. The Millard Fillmore book slowed him down, and then his quest was almost derailed by the Rutherford B. Hayes biography about the worst book you could possibly imagine, he said. It took him a year to finish it. The quest has evolved over time. Now, when Ettl completes a president, he buys the commemorative dollar coin for that president from the U.S. Mint. The coins provide a visual token of his progress, as do the presidential autographs his relatives started to buy for him. Remember in the first chapter, we talked about the treasure chest of items that we all keep for ourselves, full of old awards and ticket stubs and journals? Ettl's treasure chest is full of hardcover books, historic coins, and aged autographs, the relics of his march through U.S. history. There's something appealing about a moment of pride that comes with its own souvenir. Think about how good it feels to flip through the stamps on your passport. A mere smudge of ink can provoke a rush of memories. In keeping with this spirit, shouldn't boarding passes be designed to be treasure chest items? When you visit San Francisco, your stub should have the Golden Gate Bridge on it. Instead, we're given boarding documents that look like the homework of a dot matrix printer. Ettl estimates it will take him about 2 to 3 years to catch up to the current president. Unless I die, I'll finish this, he vowed. When he catches up to the present-day president, Ettl said, he plans to start taking his family on vacations to the presidential libraries. In other words, the end of one quest will be the start of another. Though we wonder whether this idea has been run by the kids. 6. Look at the graph below, which comes from researcher George Wu at the University of Chicago. It summarizes the completion times of more than 9 million runners in marathons from Chicago to Berlin. You can see that most runners finished a marathon in 3.5 to 5 hours. But notice how the graph looks spiky. Pay attention to the vertical lines showing the threshold times: 4 hours, 4 hours and 30 minutes, 5 hours, and so forth. You'll see that a lot more runners finished just before the lines than just after them. It's particularly dramatic at the 4-hour mark. That's the milestone effect. That's an exhausted runner who turns on her afterburners with 1 mile to go because she cannot bear to let the numbers on the stopwatch cross 4 hours. The milestones are completely arbitrary, of course. There is no defensible performance difference between 3 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds and 4 hours. But of course, you understand the difference, and so do we. One of your authors will sometimes walk laps around his bedroom at night in order to clinch 10,000 steps for the day. Absurd, but true. We all love milestones. This brings us to one last point. The desire to hit milestones elicits a concerted final push of effort. To finish the marathon under 4 hours, you sprint the final quarter mile. To hit your 10,000 steps for the day, you obsessively pace the bedroom. Cal Newport, an author and computer science professor, spent years studying the habits of successful people. From my experience, the most common trait you will consistently observe in accomplished people is an obsession with completion. Once a project falls into their horizon, they crave almost compulsively to finish it. Success comes from pushing to the finish line. What milestones do is compel us to make that push because A, they're within our grasp, and B, we've chosen them precisely because they're worth reaching for. Milestones define moments that are conquerable and worth conquering. A Boy Scout spends one more day practicing with his bow and arrow so he can nail the test and earn his archery badge. Scott ETTL suffers through Millard Fillmore's biography because he knows Lincoln's is coming. They push to the finish line. But here's the best part. We're not stuck with just one finish line. By multiplying milestones, we transform a long, amorphous race into one with many intermediate finish lines. As we push through each one, we experience a burst of pride as well as a jolt of energy to charge toward the next one.